just a brief review for you that weren't here. First of all, note the disclaimer. Chokes are extremely efficient and effective, and anything that I teach you, I will not be held responsible for in any way, shape, or form. Okay, we spent quite a bit of time making a distinction last time between different kinds of chokes, between an air choke, a blood choke, and a pain choke. Okay? And we spent the rest of our time going over basic hand positions. Hands in, fingers in, thumbs in, and what I like to call the one long, one short, which there are several variations of. So today I wanted to go over the last one in that basics, and which I would put under the naked or figure 4 chokes rubric, and then spend the rest of whatever time we have left going over some variations and how you can use these for better submissions. Any questions about that? Okay, well, let's start with what I've identified as the two basics of naked chokes. So if I can have a victim, on the side. Let's practice these from kneeling. So if you'd go down to, you just Cesar. So you're stable. Let me just repeat for a moment the idea that when you're practicing chokes with your partner, I want you to do one repetition and then switch, okay? Because repeated pressure on the arteries and vessels that supply the head can cause unconsciousness, even if you're not trying to do it, if you're not doing it hard. It's the repetition more than anything else. So, do a repetition, make sure your partner's okay, have them take a deep breath while you look them in the eye, and then switch. And go back and forth doing one repetition. Not, well, no, that's not quite right. Let's do it. Okay, well, and then you end up on the floor. Okay? So let's not have that. Reviving people is not my favorite thing to do. Okay? All right.
Good practice, though.
It's good practice, but I don't have it in the syllabus. So. All right. So, basic hand position. We talked quite a bit this weekend about how people don't do naked chokes correctly. They just don't. They put them in the wrong place, they squeeze incorrectly, they don't brace properly. So let's go over at least what I think is my idea for the way to do a good hand position naked choke. Okay? So if you take your hands, cross them over like you're clapping, and make a V with your hands. If you look between them, if you have your forearms parallel to each other, in other words, the bones are all aligned horizontally, you'll see, if you look, there's a V. Got it? When you see that, there's a V in between my arms here. I'm going to put that V right here. Okay, so I'm going to go down on one knee, I'm going to place one, and make a V. And cinch in gently. Now, squeezing is an option, but just like we learned last time, if I use my wrist action, I get a much more effective choke with far less effort. Okay? So I want to be using this motion here, because if you look closely, the V closes off. It gets more narrow very quickly. Instead of my having that same position and just using brute force, I'm actually attacking the anatomy at exactly the right spot with that wrist bone. Does that make sense to everybody? At least in theory. We'll get a chance to practice here in a second. So I'm going to pull back, and we'll talk about head position and protecting yourself and that sort of thing in a minute. But I'm going to cinch in, get right underneath his chin, and gently, and it doesn't take much, okay? Right? Great, right. Okay? Everybody got it?
So you just twisted one wrist.
They're both going, but the lever,
Got it. Okay.
I'm using the top one more than anything. So basically I'm using these good, big, strong muscles in the outsides of my forearm here, in my flexor compartments, and squeezing that way. And if you want to do it the other way, that's fine too. I don't really care which hand you have up. My suggestion though is that you, much like falling, you pick a side and you stick with it, so it's automatic. Okay? So if you like to go left hand on top, that's great. If you want to go right hand on top, that's great too. But pick one and stick with it. Okay?
Big Chris' pitch.
Any questions? Thank you, Thomas. Get partners and practice. You're doing it right.
Yes, try to do
There you go.
Good.
Go ahead. Look down so you can see my hand. Is that coming in? I'm already. Oh, that's coming in. I pull you back and it's already set.
Yeah, changes it up.
Yep. Okay. A side note for you guys. Thanks to the willingness of our partners, we're able to practice this on a fleshy neck. But if you're wanting to work on getting that wrist action right some more, your knee is a perfect way to practice because it's the right size, basically the right shape. You can snug it back in there. And if you're feeling your radius press up against your knee, you're doing it right. And you can feel it. Ooh, there's pressure. Yeah. It's a little bit different because the trachea squishes around. And you're like, well, am I doing it right? And then your partner turns blue and goes over sideways. Any questions about that one? Pretty straightforward. A couple of things to pay attention to when you're doing this practically. You want to have them have nowhere to go. Okay? So when you snug them in, snug them all the way back, snug against you. So that the head rests up against you, the back of your head, your shoulder, something to that effect. Because if you leave a gap, they'll get out. Okay? Well, maybe. if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, it'll happen pretty quick anyway. Any questions about the motion? Nope. Okay. Let's go to the next one. If I can have a different volunteer, I appreciate it, but let me have a different volunteer. I'm going to practice archery here. Same thing, if you could be in Cezanne, just so you can see my arm a little better. Placement is crucial. Placement is crucial. There is, when you're doing the classic sleeper hold and the whole figure four, see it in MMA all the time. Often you'll find that the people there, or when you see it done in a movie or something, it's not hit correctly. Notice once again, we're going to make that V. And we're going to put that V right in front. Okay? So if I get it this way, that's not going to work. So I recommend actually turning slightly sideways to your partner so you can get that all the way around. See now it's right, my elbow is right below his chin. Okay? Put it either over the back here or grab your bicep and wrap over. Depending on, if you've got a wing, if you want to control this or not. This is the most important part. Get that elbow below his chin, bring him back to you, and then basically make a fist. It doesn't take much if you get the position right. Don't need to squeeze, don't need to yank. It does not take much, okay? So please be very gentle with this, okay? Because you're getting both sides and probably his airway at the same time, all right? Get that first position, then we'll talk about variations on how to lock it in, okay? Thanks. Nod your heads like this.
Really bobbing heads.
And if I want to put the entire figure four on it, I don't want to turn my hand one way or the other. I want to keep my hand so that my radius presses up against his throat.
Right.
So I'm going to put my hand right on my bicep like it is and then lock it in. Okay? So this, I don't need to use any effort here. I just put my hand on my bicep and squeeze my right arm. And then just a little boop. Not much at all. Okay? So less effort, more position. Less effort, more position. Get that chin right. Notice as well that if I turn this way, I'm much better protected from him flailing around, aren't I? And if I get in here, that's bad. This is much better. I have something in between me and him, don't I? Any questions about that? Let's try that next time. For real, it is likely that, well, depends on in what situation you're using it. If you're trying to diffuse a situation where somebody's aggressing against somebody else and you come up behind them to take them down, they're probably not going to know you're coming. If it's a one-on-one and you get behind them, like we were talking about yesterday, which is great, although you don't want to let them do it to you, there is the possibility that they will kind of see you coming, as it were. Oh heavens, he's behind me. And I'm not going to spend time going over everything that you can do to get their head back, because we all know those. Eyes, fish hooks, whatever you want to do to get their head back. But that's excellent too, is to push at the top of their spine and counter lever as you get your arm in. Okay? Just an extra idea. So any questions about that? Is it feeling easy? That's the main question. Is it feeling like super, super simple and very effective at the same time? Very quick?
Hi.
Yeah.
Let's go down to the mall and practice. See if we can come up behind people and see how fast they go.
Okay. I want to go over a few variations on how we can apply all of these techniques, and I'm basically going to go backwards, because I think that the naked chokes, in my opinion, are more effective, and especially since we're in the summertime, you're going to have more occasion to, heaven forbid, use them than you would with the other ones, which require, not require, but are easier to do with clothing on, okay? So, I saw a couple of you already looking at how to do this from a standing position and pulling them down. So, Jared, can I use you? Let's, probably. So let's just go from a punch. Okay, I want to get his attention while I'm sneaking this in here, and I'm a real big fan of bringing him down to size. I want to take the knee down and put it down on one knee, and look, there's my choke right there. Sink it in, bang. Okay, I'm protected. He's got nowhere to go. Totally compromised balance, and I have a choke. Just that fast. Okay? So let's go over it one more time.
Yeah, do the other way.
Okay. From the punch, I want to get his attention. Got him slightly compromised. Take him down. At the same time, I slide it in. And it'll be lights out before he knows it. Okay? Can anybody, I'm kind of hidden behind here too, aren't I?
That's better.
Yeah. That's better. That's probably what's going to happen. If I get in here, and I get this choke on, he's going to wail and flail. So if I can get my head out of the way, that's even better. Okay, let's try it. That feels pretty smooth.
Hi.
Not your head like this. Okay, great. So the other, shall we say, probably far more stupid, but maybe even more prevalent attack is one we kind of went over, I think it was yesterday, with the whole wrestlers tackle, football tackle sort of thing. I'm a big fan of display. I really like display. They come at me because if I can get them around, but you know, who knows. So I want to practice both the hands and an arm, using an arm choke with this from that position. So can I have a different
This is going to be tough.
So, we'll do our best. Maybe we'll need a couple of different angles here. So good tackle. All right, so I want to get him. I'm going to splay out and back. And while he's coming in and trying to grab, I'm going to sneak this one in. Just my hands. Just my hands. That's all I need. And pow. It's very quick. If we happen to go down, I've still got my position. Okay?
Let's do it again, but have your hand
Let's do it again. Okay, I want to control his body, get that head, slide my hand in. Can you see this?
Don't know.
Get my other hand in. Bang. All right? Is that pretty straightforward? No. Give it a try. It's actually, it's gonna be a lot. I'm using this position. I'm just basically upside down and backwards from what we were doing before, but it fits just perfectly at the same time. Okay? Make sure you control their motion, control their body, get that forward motion going down, splay out and back, however you want to shut it down. Get a hand in, sink the other one in. They're already braced, their head's already braced against your stomach. Gentle squeeze in here.
In a real life situation, how are you gonna prevent them from you falling flat on their head and you?
I mean, smashing their face into the
Yeah,
ground?
and them just losing their balance, because they're already down, and if you're in that position, to me, the natural reaction is that they're gonna face plant.
That might be
You
the
won't-
case.
You won't get it set.
And that's a bad thing?
No, I'm not. No, I'm just saying it's not a control situation where
Exactly.
now it becomes he's pissed off and mad as opposed to.
I've still got superior position.
Okay.
If everything goes completely pear-shaped and I can't get it, I've still got superior position.
Again, granted.
Okay? If we just get to this point and I get lucky and I smack him and I get that choke in and he goes out, I'm down on one knee.
He's just gonna go down, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, I have several redundancies there. I'm controlling the position, so just in case, like I said, everything goes completely pear-shaped, I have superior position, and I can move, I can twist him, I can do something different. I like this because it's fast, and it's easy to get in there. Okay? Any questions? Let's try it. Thank you.
You're responsible.
Let's try the full position. Keep in mind that if somebody's coming at you full out, like Jared here, you're going to have to take extra precautions to make sure that you don't go, shall we say, base over apex. So we were working on the sprawl, it's an excellent tactic. What we worked on with you yesterday, also an excellent tactic. I'm basically taking this as I messed up and didn't see it coming. And they basically were here before I went, uh-oh. And now I don't really have anything to do but just kick my legs back and try and bounce them down. Okay? So let's, can I use you again?
Leave this on just in case.
Yeah, please. Okay, so I want to, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, whenever you're ready. Get something on it now. To get my good position here, let me turn it just a little bit. To get a decent position here, I want to turn my body into it so I can get my elbow in the right position. If I'm flat trying to get it underneath here, I'm not going to get a decent position. I want to turn just slightly. Notice what happens when I do that too. Opens up his neck. Get in, get it around. Same thing. Flat hand. I don't know if you guys are around here. So come around so you can see this. Flat hand. Put it on my bicep. Pow. All right?
Spin it around for him.
Spin it around the other way.
Don't care about the takedown.
Right. Boom. Turn my body just slightly. Opens it up. I got it there. Flat hand. Don't turn this. Keep it narrow. Push it in. Bang. Okay? Any questions? Let's try it. Thank you, sir. Fights in UFC. Somebody will get this on and they'll have to crank or they'll have to get a leg over or something like that. Your position, you're taking time to train good positioning and train good technique so that elbow stays underneath your chin, turning your body slightly so it stays underneath your chin, and at least from this position, look at your palm. Your head's in here, look at your palm. Puts your radius, puts that thin edge right against their neck. It's not trying to choke somebody with a tire. It's getting a very thin edge in there, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Does everybody feel fairly successful with this?
Well, can I make one other?
Yeah, of course.
Typically, the reason they end up in the poor position, the reason they end up in the because they try to fight force on fourth. The guy comes in this way, and I'm trying to push back and stop him right here, and we're aligned. It's just him, me against him. So what you want to do, two things. Number one, start getting off that line of attack and get yourself into position. So when he comes in, I'm starting to, when he's driving in, I'm starting to turn. Okay? So everybody can see here. So he's coming a little bit. And I love, see how deep I can get that hand now?
Just that little bit.
Because I've moved off the line, okay? And now I'm sitting here in a second. So don't try to force against force, and just play out, something like that. Go ahead and turn to the side, now you can get that hand in there.
And you've got good position.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's pushing forward, so he's gonna push himself right into the toe.
Right.
And isn't this nice how all of these things this weekend, if we, this is a circular response to a linear attack. This is getting offline from the attack.
Right,
not
I moved this
being
on a
there.
circular response to a linear attack.
Exactly. Just like Jujitsu.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I've heard of that somewhere. Okay, so let's, first of all, any questions on those? I mean, obviously, you can now you've got the idea. Well, let's see, I can put it in this direction, I can go here, this way, that way. So any questions about at least the naked portion of these applications?
Why do you use the word naked?
Because I'm not using any clothing.
Oh,
That's
arm on neck. Everything
Yeah.
more fun
Right.
naked.
There are two types of choking techniques. You can use his clothing or not use his clothing.
Got it.
So the term naked comes from the fact you could do it on a naked person
Yeah, got it.
because you don't need clothing.
Oh,
Hopefully you're not doing it on a naked person.
that would look bad.
If you're having to use jujitsu techniques against a naked person, you probably should choose your friends better.
Or at least where you hang out.
That actually happened in Portland about 2 years ago. I don't want to know.
It was a buff and cover.
And so why were you running around naked?
It was the police were badly disconcerted by this naked guy with a razor blade.
Okay.
Blood all over him.
That would disconcert me.
That would cause him.
Yeah. Ended up shooting because the guy wouldn't stop approaching him. Killed him.
Because he had a razor blade.
He was covered with blood and he had a razor and he was naked.
Haven't you ever heard
And
of
he
a long
freaked out.
stick?
He freaked out. The cop didn't. He basically
carry it
had
with
2
him.
seconds to draw and fire.
Fair enough. Razor blade. Yeah, well, tough call. Hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? Except in certain cases. Anyway,
Karate training.
let's work on some of the chokes, at least some of the variations that we looked at last time for a submission after a throw or after a punch or some form of takedown as a finishing move in case your throw wasn't the submission that you hoped it to be and they're still struggling a little bit. Okay? Can I use you? Okay, so let's sorry?
No, it's fine.
Let's all right, so we did this throw, down. Okay. Arm bars are always one of my favorite things. I'll just pull it around here so these guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay. If I'm going to choke, one of the main things that I want to pay attention to is making sure that they can't go anywhere. They can't get away from it. So I'm usually going to pop them in the back of the head in order to get that choke to happen. Let's start with this one. First one we did, fingers inside. Sneak in deep, get it in nice and snug. Does not take much at all. Notice I've got my other hand free. Make sure he doesn't do anything nefarious here. And keep my options open. Nice and deep. Just a little bit of wrist action. Okay, any questions? No? It really is that easy. It should not be hard if you get your position right, just like we were working on Friday. So, thank you, Thomas. Let's try it. Pretty straightforward. So just remember, it's a couple of things to mention on this. Can I have a body here, please, you, Steve? Just go ahead and lay down facing that way. If I don't have something behind here, he can get out of this really easy. It makes a big hole. Just like any other choke we're doing. If I go to get this choke in here, and I try to set that in there, now I've just got a big struggle, messiness, and probably gonna take one to the. Yes, exactly. But if I get him in here, give him a good pop behind the head, ring his bell a little bit while I get in, and get that choke set, I don't even need clothing. I can just reach behind and grab his trapezius and make that choke happen.
One thing you're not noticing, you two guys have the problem here. If you notice, is Chris's foot. His foot is, and it's kind of hard to see because he's got black socks on. His foot is in line with, who do we have down here? Steve's shoulders, okay? And this makes it, this way, it won't move much. If he takes his foot and has it out to the right,
Yeah, it's not stable.
it goes back to the same thing you had yesterday with the guy down, and he just slipped his elbow out from under and rolled him over. It's the same thing. So your foot positions are critical, you know.
To reduce the degree of freedom.
To reduce the,
Yeah.
you don't want to, you know, I call it crotch space.
No crotch
But
space. Yeah.
you don't want to give this guy an inch of freedom. Okay.
So if you think about when you're putting it in, that you're driving the shin.
Right.
You actually can now drive the ulna back in against the
Yeah.
shin.
Right.
If you got it on the side of the leg here.
It's the back part.
So you can make that V again.
Right, the shin should be the support on the back, and the ulna's
Right.
gonna be the.
Right.
Now, I suppose if you wanted to get really creative, you could probably reach around and grab your own foot or your own leg.
Well, then you can lay down and lift it up. And
Let
smash
me
it
mention
back.
something else about this too. Like Sensei was saying here, this leaves you in a very strong position biomechanically as well. There's the urge, sometimes I think maybe because, you know, right-handed or whatever, to reach in across this way. This is bad. Please don't do this. Can everybody see why this is bad? Just like we were working on yesterday, exactly.
roll.
If you give them that,
Oh, now I have a serious problem. Now he's probably gonna try and choke me out.
okay, so let me give you guys another variation on this. I've thrown him, and you know, for whatever reason, I now have this leg in. Okay, I didn't come down this way. I can do this same choke with my other hand now. Okay, same position, different foot. I've turned and I've ended up this way. This works really well. Pow.
And you can break the elbow at the same time.
This is my backup. You know, this is plan B. I always like to have a plan B. Always a good thing, maybe in plan C, but for right now this is good. Also, it keeps him from going anywhere. I'm kind of cranking him a little bit. He pushes his head back against here. Bang, okay? Once again, get that in nice and deep. Get the chin down. Get that in there nice and deep. It's gonna hurt, yeah, see? It's gonna hurt. And they'll probably pull back up and I can just wiggle in. Okay? I pretty much guarantee you they're gonna submit before you choke them out. Get out, okay, all right, stop. Okay? Now, if they do happen to be kind of stunned from the throw and the chin's back and you set that choke, awesome. But you might want to play around with, they got their chin down, how can I still wiggle in there? Okay, any questions? Do you need to see this?
Yes.
Can I use somebody else? Can I use your joke? Come around here, see what you're doing. Okay, so I made the throw and somehow I got, switch-footed. I want to get this in behind him again, if at all possible again. I want to try and turn that in enough so that I can get down nice and solid. Get this out of your way, sneak in, deep. There it is. He makes good faces. All right, does that do it? You got it?
Got it.
Okay, great, let's practice, please. Thanks, sir. Major emphasis on this point, coming back to the naked chokes. It's really important because we both see this a lot, is that you come in for that choke and then they try and, whoever does it tries to push the head forward or crank it down. And that is exactly the opposite effect from what you want. You want this space to increase. I don't want them to go anywhere, so I'm going to brace in their back, but I do not want to push down on the head. You'll see this in the UFC and that sort of thing. They'll get that choke on and then they'll
push.
That's
on the
even how
person's
it's
head.
taught in most places, is to
Yes,
push
it is.
forward. But what you're doing is you're actually tucking their chin and making it harder to close in on the neck. What you want the neck to elongate so that the pressure gets tighter in here on the leg. So don't push in on the head, actually lift up so the chin and neck come up. And that is the one thing that makes a difference between an effective rear naked choke and an ineffective.
Yeah, I guess the fundamental question you want to ask yourself is, do you want to struggle with this person or do you want them out? Because if you push their chin down, you're actually doing a neck crank, which hurts,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong.
But
it's not
you're
nearly-
fighting yourself if
Oh.
you're trying to do a choke.
If you're trying to choke them and you're pushing the head forward, you're helping them. You're helping.
Also just to have, Antonio, you want to do this choke on poor Joe again? Initially, when Joe decided to resist, and so what Antonio was initially doing was, even though he had the thumb in there, he was pulling up. And I said, don't pull up, push down, because it drives it into the wedge. Okay, and so if you get in that situation, rather than trying to pull them up, which a lot of people do, because they think they're pulling them in closer to the choke, because the way this is set up,
There it is.
you just push down,
Yeah.
and it's over.
Yeah. So again,
A lot less force.
to emphasize that point, think about the physics of it. I am not trying to make this V get bigger. I am trying to make this V get smaller. And one way I can do that is, once again, by making my wrist move such that that V, which is exactly what you need to do in that position, which is push that in.
Right.
It's a very strong motion too, because I can bring my entire body weight down on that one little part there. Okay? So, a couple of very important key points about that. Any questions so far? No? Okay, I got one more that I want to do as a long and short variation from the back. If you can't get in and get our favorite naked choke in, or if they've got a coat on, or something like that. So, Antonio, can you shoot? So let's go from let's just go from a punch again. And I'm going to sneak this in here. I'm going to get it in. Can't quite get in there, but I got this here. Now, one long and one short. If I've got this, this is great. I can use his shoulder. I can use his arm. I can come around and get the other lapel. Bang. But I am not pulling. There is no back muscle here. There is no back muscle. The only thing I'm doing is that. That's it. If I'm trying to effort and do all that with him, first of all, I want him back here, okay? Or down on one knee or whatever. Here, just that, okay? It's quick. Much like any pain or shock technique, I want it to happen really fast. I don't want to have to struggle with it, especially if he's bigger than I am, like Joe is or somebody like that. I want it to happen really, really fast. All right, so let's show that one more time, maybe from the other angle. Yeah. From the punch, come over the top, bring it around here. Just that. Just the wrist action. So practice that wrist action. Get in as deep as you can. Keep your head out of the way. Keep this braced. Do not press down on their head. Do not press forward. Keep in here. Heck, I don't really need this. I can brace it. Okay, any questions? All right, thank you very much. Let's try it. Good chokes is about good positioning. It's not about overpowering the guy. It's about using your anatomy against their anatomy, not your muscle against their muscle. And it's about using your anatomy effectively against their weak spots, because we all know the throat and the neck is a tremendous weak spot, and using it in such a way that you can hit it fast will get you the result you want. They will jerk, their eyes will pop open, they'll be compliant pretty quickly, and if not, you've got position on them and they will go out pretty quickly. So then a note of caution as well. the way that I've taught these, we've gone after pretty much blood chokes. We have not gone after their air, we haven't done a whole lot of pain, although you can, if you think about it for just a minute and look at the diagrams, if you just change the positioning slightly, it's pretty easy to choose your target area, okay? Something to think about with any chokes is that you're going after a really, really delicate area, and you need to have your wits about you when you do it so that you modulate your response appropriately. Because the last thing you want to do is hear that weird, wet cracking sound when you're doing a choke on somebody. That's bad. So, if and when you get the chance, do practice these with your students, with your colleagues in class, not obviously at work. Intend to frown on that sort of thing. If there are no other questions.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Michael Langewisch, and I'm going to talk about the Whirlpool. Before I even tell you what it is and what my thoughts are, I've got a couple of talking points, and then we'll talk about what it is. So relax for just a second. There's a concept out there called the 10,000 hours rule. I don't know if anybody has ever heard this rule before. Okay. To be a genius level, master level, it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become that level. That in itself has some implications. You have to start young. Okay. You can take corners off of that. You can use other people who are genius level to cut your 10,000 hours down. But 10,000 hours is an awful lot of time to practice any particular effort. Play the piano, play the violin, jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be. Some of us have martial arts backgrounds that are more diverse than just jiu-jitsu. How many of you have a black belt in another discipline that is entirely different from jiu-jitsu? Okay. How long did it take you to feel comfortable in the second martial art? But I don't mean just, I kind of know what I'm doing, but it's a part of your thought processes. It's something that takes, you can really work with it.
Less time than this one.
Like a second language or third language.
Yeah.
I just need a time period. I want a rough guess.
50%.
A time period, not a percentage.
7 years.
7 years?
I was going to say, maybe, for it to be automatic, yeah, probably 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Okay. And you have I need a third totally different martial art. That's going to cut it down.
I got a third one.
I got a third one as well. And how long did that one take?
Took me about
2 years. The time got shorter each time.
It's gonna get shorter. I don't know how long it is.
Yeah.
It depends on the martial art. Depends how tied closely it is to you. I mean, if it's something entirely different, like a weapon art from an empty hand, you're almost starting from scratch with some of the basic concepts are there. So the 10,000 hour rule can be played with by having some experience beforehand. In jiu-jitsu, you've got all these different techniques. Let's say I teach you Ippon Sainogi. I don't care what the throw is, just pick a throw. How many repetitions do you think it really takes to you feel good with that throw? Just a guess on the number of repetitions. There's no right or wrong answer. If you say 1, that's wrong.
1,000.
I'd go with several hundred.
I raised you 2,000.
I generally
2001.
1,000. That's the rule.
I think it's just mentally everybody's going to say 1,000 is your number.
Well,
I know
there's a saying that it takes 100 repetitions to learn learn a technique, 1,000 to make it effective, and 10,000 to master it.
Again, those are rough estimates, and that's, there's nothing wrong with a rough estimate. So, when I practice by myself at home, and I'm doing a kata, okay? I'm talking a karate kata, something like Kanku Dai, or something that's difficult, not a piece of cake kata, not a one technique thing. I have a jar with quarters in it. It's got the label of the kata on it, and I take, do it. Every time I learn the kata first. You can't count those as part of your repetition. Okay, so once you can do the kata, and you're efficient at it, you start practicing it, you add a quarter to it. After about 100 times, and that's about 3 minutes, that kata in particular is about 3 minutes long. That takes quite a while to go through 100 repetitions. Okay, let's just say it's an hour and a half a night, do it a couple times a week, I'm probably looking at a month's worth of work there.
To get in a couple hundred repetitions. Yeah.
Okay? To talk about 10,000 repetitions, as a practical matter, you're looking at all year. Okay? I mean, it's going to take you all year to really see
With
that.
anything else.
No one sits there and goes, conquer, die, huh, conquer, die, huh, conquer, die, huh.
Yeah, that's.
Conquer, die, okay, I need to take a quick break here.
Not eating, sleeping.
Yeah, okay. You're talking 100,000, you're talking a lifetime. Right? If you have a system like Shotokan and you have 26 katas or 30 katas, there is actually no way you are ever going to make that level of repetition of all of those katas. Opinion. I will let you know when I make an opinion, because I will throw them out there. So you need to start looking at what is common between those things so that you can share that mastery across everything. You don't want to start from scratch. Okay? So I'm thinking about this for Budoshin Jujitsu, and I'm going to show you a couple things just because I like using visual aids. Everybody's read this book?
Maybe not 1,000 times.
No.
I've never seen that before. Who's that guy?
I've got a copy. It's $30.
Who's that guy on the floor?
Okay. You go through it, and there's a technique that I've marked in green for every one of these on that book that is green. It's the same technique with different variations. Okay? And I'm not counting where he actually specifically says I'm going to use variations on it. But this is what it looks like in that orange book. Okay? So that, as a mathematical factor, comes out to 35% of that book is one technique. Okay? And that was back in 1983. Okay? That book. Everybody's seen it and looked at it? If you don't have it, again, $30 for yours. Go through, mark the same technique. Okay. That one pops up to 42%, and that's in 1985. Okay. Interesting thought. It's going up as it goes on in years. Next book in the sequence, a Jute book, which is a weapons book. Again, do the same trick of identify what the throw is. 47%, published in 87. Next technique book. Go through. You start to see that the green is showing up more and more. Pops up to 57% of the book is that one basic technique in one form or another, hidden one way or another.
Now,
And that's in
does that mean he's just
2001.
getting lazier?
I'll tell you what, I'll show you what I mean by that.
Let's not attribute motive here.
Yeah, okay. So what we've got is we've got a throw or a technique that is appearing in the syllabus of Budoshin Jujitsu as a pretty heavy part consistently through the years. Okay? It's going up, that may be random or not. Some of the books that he published after don't really fit the pattern because they're specialty books. If he's talking the scientific principles book, he's not doing a lot of techniques. Okay? So I can't use that book to talk about it, and I never went through the figure 4 to do that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big chunk of that book as well.
Yeah, figure 4.
Okay. If you specifically exclude everything else, it's probably not going to be. Okay. I didn't take the Budoshin Jujitsu test and do this with it, but in particularly the Waza portion, it could be potentially at least half of every test you take. Okay. Let's talk about what that throw is. Byron, borrow you please, since we've talked about this before. I'm going to call this the Whirlpool. Okay. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to call it the Whirlpool, because I don't like calling it the Teinagi throw. If I walked outside on the street, no one knows what Teinagi means. If I go to another martial art, no one knows what Teinagi means. Okay? Whirlpool, I've still got that same problem, but it gives you more of an idea of what we're talking about. Pivot back is probably the better throw descriptor of what you're looking at, but I've kind of got a mental picture of Byron going down in a whirlpool. Okay? Okay. So, it's the Teinagi footwork, because that's in Budoshin Jujitsu, that's the first technique that happens to appear on the test. Okay? I'd like you to try to think of it as a pivot back or a pivot forward, but we'll talk about that. So you've got this throw, however you get into your throw. Okay, Byron's shoulders are locked up straight across. My job is to get his shoulders tilted and forward and taken down. Okay, so it's going to look like this. and he's going to go down. Okay, that's the throw I'm talking about. That's the throw that is showing up in that technique book. One way or another, it's that articulate motion. Okay? That can be from a rear portion where that shoulder comes down. That can be from a makikomi where that shoulder comes down and he goes down. Okay? Makikomi is more of a follow-up idea to this. In Budoshin Jujitsu and Jiu-Jitsu, I can name you 5 major categories of throws. The pivot back is one of them, the pivot forward is one of them, the stepping through is one of them, the stepping back is one of them, and I'll leave the 5th one to you. Okay? It's odd that you've got 2 matching pairs, and then you've got one on its own, but I'll leave that to you because I want you to think too. Okay? All right, so again, let me show you what I want to see from Byron. Just hold that behind your shoulders, like the yoke. This is the axis, it's easier to see. It's not enough for me to generate centrifugal force off of a throw. I need to have him come down off of a throw. Okay? Easy enough to visualize that? Okay. Any kind of throw that you're going to do. Let's talk about what you want to look at when you're doing this throw. Okay? You can step in and do Tenaki, Whirlpool. Okay? I don't particularly care for stepping in. It gives Byron the opportunity to respond back to me to foul my throw to end it. Okay? If I'm here, I'm going to do Tenagi and throw 2 different ways. There's the step in. There's the step back. Okay? It is easier for Byron to respond and foul me and get me with something, counter me if I'm close to him. Okay? Value judgment. It is harder for Byron to do something to me when I'm stepping back. He's got my weight on the end of his arm. He's turned. He shouldn't be able to do much to me. Okay? Value judgment number 1, it's better to be away than close. Okay? You're here, it's okay. Better. Okay? If you can get that, you're better off. If you're inside, and I do Tenagi, hand throw, whatever it may be, I've got this arm to worry about. If I'm out here, it's better for me. Outside is better than inside. Again, value judgment on mine. You make your decision, but I don't like this where if I'm screwing around with something over here, I've got this problem. I prefer this, where I don't have to worry about that. Okay? How much of this throw is hand work and how much of this is footwork? Okay? Essentially what I do on each one of these throws is I somehow marry us together. Okay, so my body's locked with his, and the pivot back portion is where he goes down. Okay? My body weight is what's doing the throw. Okay? If it's Tenagi, if it's Tenagi, I can shove it down and break his hand. I'm not talking about that variation. Here, it's the pivot back that does it, and it's not my hands doing it, it's the motion like that. Thanks. Okay? Again, you want to get your body weight involved in any throw you do. I believe in that. Value judgment. Okay? Nothing new. Let's talk about this as a energy saver. Okay? If I'm doing Ippon Tenagi, and this is Byron. Byron weighs less than I do. Okay? But approximately, I mean, close enough where I've got a reasonable chance of throwing Ippon. Okay? Here, I've got him. I take him up. It takes a little bit of effort to get Byron up. Okay? Here, energy saver, he's down. It takes more energy for me to go into a throw, to step through him, okay, than it does to step away and let him handle me. Let me have a kick. You've all seen this one, we talked about it before. It takes more energy for me to shove him backwards. Okay, if I've got him tight, it doesn't take a lot, but it still takes more energy to do this than it does to take this little half step and pull him. Okay, watch my feet run with my hands. Okay. That's a minor thing, but again, I'm spending energy. Let me switch off this one. Are you sure? I'm going to use myself as a bad example. It's not a technique. Between the two of us, who's going to win a foot race?
Byron.
Everybody thinks the Jared's going to win, right? Okay. Let's. Well, in general, I don't know anything. He's spending energy at a different rate than I am. Okay. If I start out with $20 and he starts out with, let's say, 30, I'm going to say that he's got more muscle than I do. He's in better shape. He's younger. So we'll give him $30 and I'll get 20. I'm going to be spending money at $2 a second, and he's going to be spending money at $1.50 a second. He's got more storage tank in his fuel in his storage tank, and he's spending less time than I am. So I've got to go, and I've got to go now. I've got to preserve my ability to respond to him and end it. I do not want to screw around with fighting with him. Judgment, value judgment. I do not want. I want to win. No, not yet. Not yet. No technique, just standing there.
Enlighten myself.
Same analysis, okay? He may have the same stamina as I do, but he's older than I am. Okay? Easy enough.
You're cunning.
Cunning? Me? I don't know, I'm pretty bad. All right. I've got body weight, he doesn't. Okay? So we're getting a little even now. It's not all tilted toward him anymore. It's now kind of a little better here. I still think I'm going to win, to be honest. Okay? And I'm not picking on you, I'm really not. Okay. Let me give another person, Joe. Can I borrow you?
From this angle, it looks even worse.
I know. It looks pretty bad when I get in front of him, doesn't it? Another problem, he's taller than I am. Okay? He's going to be able to throw techniques that I cannot respond to from a distance. I have got to get into him to close that distance. Okay? Let me borrow you just a second. Let me just say real quick. Osotogari against a taller opponent. Okay? It is difficult. I mean, even if I use my body weight like that, and I had him off balance, then I cannot throw that leg out because I'm going to lose it. He's going to be able to take me if he wants to. Okay? I'm going to have to shove it down. I can't do that. Okay? You're also looking at a flat floor here. Let's pretend that this is an incline. Okay? Even if it's not tall. Okay? Even if he's not taller than I am. Let me just bend that for a second. On an incline, Osotogari is impossible for me. Okay? Tomonagi, on the other hand, might be a good, worthwhile throw. Okay? Okay? He can do Osotogari to me very easily. It won't take anything for him to do it. If you're looking in here, we always practice on a flat surface. I recommend that you don't. Every once in a while, get out, play on the playground, do it in the sand, do it on an odd angle so you know what that small advantage does to you. Okay? All right, let's start playing with it now. Larry, can I borrow you again? I won't choke him out so I can use him repeatedly. What I'd like to do is we'll start with this particular whirlpool. Hit it back. He's going to be thinking about throwing the punch. He's going to start cranking his hand down so he's just pulling me into that punch. This is what he's going to do. Okay? So I want to try and duck my head down and take that away from him. If I go right foot forward or left foot forward, it really doesn't make too much difference. Okay, he starts pulling. Okay, it's not much. That's what's going to happen. You can't do much with this left hand to stop this from going on. Okay? As you come in and as you're pulled in, reach. I don't care which technique you do. You can do a muscle grab. You can do something up here. You can do something here. Whatever you want to do. Lay into this shoulder so that the shoulder bends down. Get a good grip if you can. Okay? If you can't, it's still okay. And then take it back. Okay? So let's try this one again. Whatever you want to do. Okay? Let's try it a couple times, and then I want to try a different way of practicing. All right.
There you go. Sometimes you have to get out of your own way.
That's part of what this does.
Thank you.
Okay, Byron, how far are you again? One of the other advantages that the Whirlpool has, if you're lucky, you get older. If you're lucky, you get older. Hate to tell you that, but that's just the way it is. Your muscle mass decreases as you get older. Your reaction time decreases as you get older. You are less likely to throw a tomonagi in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s than they are when you're 20. Just the ability to get back up after going down is tougher. And that's hard for a 20-year-old to hear, but I'm a visionary. I can just see what's going to happen. If you rack up injuries, it's harder to do. Okay? You look around, you can see people's injuries. Just see what you got. Okay? Let me show you a couple things about the range of this throw. Okay? Osotogari. Okay? If I take Byron down, okay? I'm not going to take him down, but I just want you to think about where he's going to land. I'm here. Okay? He's going to land right about there, right? Maybe I can dial it a little bit one way or the other. Okay? But I've got a wedge of about straight back to about that much. Give him a left-handed one. I've got about a wedge about this size. Okay? Ippon Seoinage is about the same size wedge. Turn it around. I can throw him here. I can throw him here. Kind of getting difficult to throw him over in this range. Can't throw him over there with Ippon Seoinage. Okay? Essentially the same range that I have for Osotogari I've got for Ippon.
Yeah, give me both hands.
Given both sides. Okay? For the Whirlpool, for the pivot back, I've got a range. Let me have a double choke. Starting from this corner. Going to that corner. And that's a full circle, given a right and left. I've got a lot of range to play with this, so if I'm facing multiple attackers, I've got choices. Problem with Ippon Seoinage. How many of you have seen this as an instructor? I'm going to do a poor Ippon Seoinage, a poor Osotogari. Let's see what Byron does. Okay? Okay? Easy to fail with Osotogari. The counter for Osotogari is generally Osotogari, so he's just going to push me back over. Okay? Ippon Seoinage, if I go in and he pushes down my hip, I go back with him. Pretty easy to counter Ippon Seoinage, any of the hip throws with that particular technique. Using this technique again, the Whirlpool, his counter is limited. Okay? If I'm up here, I've got a lot of opportunity that he doesn't have anymore. If I can get this shoulder dip that I'm looking for, one way or another. One way or another, however I get that shoulder dip back. Okay? There is no point in this throw. Once I start this motion, however I start it, let's say you're in a judo tournament and you see this a lot. They start to hunker down. Okay? Ippon Seoinage is effectively gone for you. Okay? If you attempt to go for Ippon Seoinage, you are going down. And he's going to put that. No, you're not. It depends on your opponent, I guess. Okay? Because you're going to be going this way. I don't care. Okay? Yeah. If you go for tomonagi, you need something that's going to put it that way. Okay? Otherwise, you are never going to drive through. If you're on the ground and you're back pinned, I have nothing that even remotely resembles Ippon Sayanagi as a counter. Okay? There's just no way for me to get back up that way. Okay? There is nothing resembling a Tomonagi for me to get back that way. Essentially, I have to pivot one way or another to get off of him, to get him off of me and be able to continue whatever I'm doing. Okay? You're looking at your ability to move, you're looking at what you've got to work with. Let's do another one. Again, I like the back stepping throws. Okay, he does a punch. I step just out of range. And I mean just out of range. The closer I can get, the better I'm on. Okay. One more time for you. An angle. I accidentally cut what I wanted, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. If I step too far, it really doesn't make a difference. Better to step too far than not enough. Okay. I'd like you to try this particular technique. He punches. Okay. All there is to it. Let's try it. Chest is dropping right here.
Here, and then that way, back up. Start to
Paying attention.
Who liked that particular throw for one reason or another?
go ahead.
I was playing with some Lego guys once.
Let's say I do this technique or you do the Z-bar. I'm not really going to talk about what it is other than to show it, because most of you should know what it is by now if you don't. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, here. Okay, this is Z-bar. Typically, you'll see this as a submission of some kind. Okay, let's say this isn't working for me for whatever reason. Okay? Byron doesn't have nerves. It happens. I've seen a couple people where it just doesn't seem to work. It just doesn't seem to work. He keeps his arm straight. He's got a lot of muscle. I can't pull it off. Okay? He cannot hold me up at the end of his arm. It's a lot of weight to stop. Okay? And I can snap his arm on the way back into it. You can't feel that, but I know Byron did. Okay? So I attempt the Z-bar. It doesn't work. Okay? At this point, I use my body weight. I do not use my hands. Okay? Snap, and it's over. Okay? If it's not over, I have other ways to end it really quick. And forgive me, I didn't take my meds today. I will make science fiction references, movie references. If you've ever seen American X, you know what I'm talking about. There's a scene where I can end it like that. If you don't, you just got to rent a little bit, okay? One more time, I attempt the Z-bar. It doesn't work. He's starting to get his oats and he wants to come back. Snap. Okay, let's try that as a plan B. Whatever. Kirby was exactly what it is. From the uke's point of view, Mark and I were talking about this. You do a 2-day, 3-day camp somewhere, you're kind of getting tired of being thrown around after a while. Okay? I would rather take 10 of these type of falls than I would 10 Ippon Sayanagis. Okay? You're talking 100? There's no way I'm going to take 100 Ippon Sayanagis. The person throwing me is going to get tired. Again, there's that energy consumption that they're talking about. You can practice this throw longer. It's safer for your uke than it is Ippon Sayanagi or Tomonagi. almost any throw, okay? What I'd like to do now is practice this particular technique. Chris, can I borrow you for this one? And we're just gonna do it like this. He grabs my lapel. I put my hand to pin his hand against my chest again. I'm marrying us together for a moment. It's California, it's almost legal.
Next Friday.
Next Friday? Next Friday. I wasn't gonna say that, but he knew it, so. Okay, you will bring your hand up and you will step back. Okay. I'm gonna have two lines, so what I'm gonna have you do is the people on this side of the line will grab with this hand, you will throw them. The people on this line will grab with the opposite hand and throw this one. So you'll be going 1, 2, 1, 2. I recommend that you do not spend any time, once you've thrown this person, looking at them, because your problem is here. Okay? Your next attack is coming from here. Be done with them. Concentrate on what's happening here. Get your confidence level up, your bravery, your courage, whatever you want to call it. Start working faster and faster. At first, we've got about 8 people, so it's 4 each. 1, 2, okay? As you start getting faster and faster, get toward the end of the line. 1, 2. You start to realize how quickly you can do this throw, how little energy it takes. So let's try that. Next person come down. Stay in the middle so you don't keep heading back.
Yes, we don't want to. We don't want to
Back you up against the wall.
I want your courage moving forward, not backwards. This line come out this way, other line come out that way, so you aren't crossing the
All right, mate.
End of the line.
end of the line, so let's switch off.
Almost, almost.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're odds on you.
Go ahead.
Not fast enough that you're throwing cookies into each other. There's a high percentage success rate on this one, on this throw. Okay? It's easier to teach this throw than it is this throw. It's easier to teach than this throw because you're adding in parts that aren't really necessary to teach the concept of the throw. So just as a recommendation, this is from judgment again. If you're going to teach a throw, you want to start with the easiest variations and work up to the ones that are less useful or harder. Okay? Joe, in particular, because he's got tall body weight, one of the ways to make this throw more effective is to drop that body weight into it. I've got more body weight than Joe, believe it or not. Okay? Just stand next to me. Okay? This is just going to look cool 20 years from now. You can see that I've got a little more body weight. I'm lower. There are throws that Joe is never going to be able to do to me because of this.
I keep on.
He is never. Keep on saying Augie.
Yeah. It's going to be hard.
I shouldn't say impossible. It's less likely. Okay?
Low percentage.
He's just not going to get it. In my opinion, he's not. Against somebody who's got a modicum of skill, I don't think he's ever going to get that. Okay?
So it's going to take him more time to actually get in the right position. It's going to give you more time to counter.
Okay.
Choose like that.
Oh, so you're not really looking at fitness levels or not age, things like that, injuries. You want to look at something like this too. Okay. So I've got an easy throw for Joe. Okay. This is going to be. I'm doing it to you. You're going to do this. It's easy for Joe to actually hit his body weight into this throw and throw me. You're going to throw me. Let me hit him. So just do that same throw we were just doing. No.
Oh, listen.
The same bit of that. It's easy for Joe to throw me around, okay? Just because he's got height, okay? It's a little harder for me to throw this one. I can still do it to Joe, in my opinion. Okay, pin it. I can still do it. If I can't, how do I make this throw work for me?
Drop a level.
Kick him in the nuts.
Elevation. Okay? You've seen a lot of these throws where you drop to your knee.
Right.
If I can get this down, I can get him off even when he's struggling with it. Okay? So elevation, on a flat surface, it's a little harder to pull off. On an incline, a little bit easier for me to get that if I'm on the downhill side. If I'm on a curb, I've got 8 inches more. And then I've got something really nice coming down the street for him when he goes out in the street. Don't know how many movies I've seen with the boom, gets hit on the side, I just don't know where that happens. So any kind of throw like this, give me a double hand grip. Okay, you've seen this one before. All I'm doing right there is centrifugal force. So I could just go like this, but it's a fight. If I do it where I drop, it's a problem. It's a little add-on that makes it more effective for shorter people, for lighter people. Let's try it with a little bit of a oomph on it. So, same
drill.
Same drill. Okay. A little bit slower, as the person throwing is going to have to come up each time.
It's going to be working.
Because you're going so fast, you're not used to it.
Sorry, you hear me?
Very good.
We'll get there.
You just think about things.
Yeah, I was imagining the head bounce. Somebody who doesn't know how to take this fall.
I'm going to talk about how to make this one a killer thrill.
We'll get there.
Okay, relax for a second. And let me borrow Byron again. Okay. I like that exercise in particular for a lot of reasons. One, it gives you the right left that a lot of people do not practice. That throw in particular is easy to teach on the left-hand side, so I like using that. When you teach Ippon on the left, people seem to stumble with it. This one's just... You get the practice of working with everybody in the class, you get a tighter, more cohesive group. You don't get this, I don't want to work with him. I'm never going to work with the tall person, or I'm never going to work with the heavy person. Let's talk again, I'm going to make a value judgment. Look at him for a second. This throw is a little safer for the uke in general than a lot of throws because you are controlling his head. Okay. So let me have the handshake one. Okay. I'm here, I take him back. His head is in my control most of the way down on this one. Okay. In comparison, I'm not going to throw him. Ippon Seanagi, okay? You have seen it where you see picture where the person's head is just as close off the ground, and that's a person who knows how to throw and is balanced on the throw. You will teach Ippon Seanagi and you'll see people fall backwards, you will see people fall forwards as they're doing Ippon Seanagi. That head is this close to the ground, their body weight's behind it, you've got the potential for a major injury there. Okay? Safer, we can make this throw less safe, we can make this throw a killer throw. Okay? The safety one again. I keep his head tight. I keep his head tight. I keep his head tight, whatever you're going to do, so it's not close to the ground. Okay? Let me have a punch pattern. Now, normally you can't tell your attacker you're going to have a punch pattern, okay? But you can. Okay. Let me give you an idea. I'm sorry, let me switch with Mark. I like that. Mark is a boxer. Okay? He's had a few months of training. What does a boxer want to see? 4 months? What does the boxer want to see? What do they want open? What do they want to attack? Okay? If I know just by the way Mark is standing that he's a boxer, that's not that hard. Okay? He wants that jab. Okay? He's always going to throw that jab. 95% of the time, that's his main technique as a boxer. I almost guarantee that. Okay? As a boxing, I was a self-defense instructor. Okay? So, My way, I do not want to sit here and go, well, whenever he's ready to throw, he can throw. I want to bait him so that I go, give me that throw, please. Okay? So the bait is going to be, it's just enough that he sees it's open and he wants it. But I'm in control of the timing of that punch. I'm making him throw it when I want it. Okay? It's important because here he doesn't really see the opening. Okay? Here the opening exists and he wants it. And I've only moved my hand. Very subtle and very true. Anybody taking Taekwondo? Can I have a Taekwondo person, please?
Not for any length of time.
No, I don't need.
Okay. Disclaimer.
Okay. I'm a Shotokan Karate expert. Okay? You know what's coming.
Yeah.
As a Taekwondo person, what are you doing? What is the way they fight? How do they spar? They're going to be bouncing around in front of you typically so that they can throw these kicks. Okay? If he's a Shotokan person, Denny, he is going to step back, deep stance, and you know what he wants to do. Okay?
Pretty heavy. Yeah.
Okay? So if I'm here, what can you do to make me throw this punch? Because you don't want something you've never seen before, like an axe kick come your way. You don't want to see this. You want to see that punch come in so you can deal with it. That's exactly it. It's a small motion. I recommend not making the face. Because then it's obvious. And you can't make it too obvious. You can't do it 3 times in a row. Kendo. Who takes Kendo? Anybody ever taken Kendo? Okay. Kendo wants the head.
All the time.
Kendo wants the #1 shot. Okay? How do you make the Kendo person throw a head shot? Your guard is here. Typically, they always start from the shoot-on position, Kendo. This is always what they're looking for. And then it's a big jump into the mat. Okay? It doesn't look as good. I do much better than they do. Okay? What can Chris do to make me want to throw that gun? Okay? He went a little too far with that. It's obvious to me. I wouldn't go for the men as my limited experience with Kendo would. Okay? Just enough, and you don't even need to drop the sword. It just has to be a slight, here it is.
Come on.
A little nod of the
Okay?
head.
Come on.
Not only are you asking for that particular hit, but you're expunging all the rest of the techniques that he might do. Because now he's trained that way. He wants that technique. Okay? It's almost like saying, I really need that headshot.
Come on, baby.
Can you give it to me, please? Okay? If you've never done that, think about it. Okay? Now let me ask you a hard question. What does a Budoshin Jujitsu want to see?
A beer?
Right now,
Women's volleyball? I don't know.
right now, and that would be fun.
Soft pillow.
We want
Extended extremity,
Yeah, we want.
Okay, can I borrow you?
something that sets the ball.
Okay, so what is Mark doing? And we'll just use Mark as an example, okay? 'Cause he's trained Budoshin Jujitsu. What do you want me to do? What do you want to work on? What's your favorite thing?
I just want to see an arm or hand come.
Okay, so how do you make my arm or hand come up?
Okay.
Okay? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. I'll start from here, but if I want him to do something, I'll actually do just a little kind of turn the chin or a little nod here, just to come forward as if I'm offering something to him. And then hopefully he'll take the bait.
Okay. So let me borrow Mark again. What does he not want to do? He does not want to make it obvious that he's doing it. If he dips down too much, I will
'Cause I lose
bait
too
this
much-
to see what he really wanted to do,
Yeah.
and then fire off something entirely.
You know,
Yeah,
if I drop my
Budoshin
guard-
Jujitsu is low available.
Yeah, if I drop my guard too much, I've just, defeated the whole purpose of it.
It is a minor hit to get this down to do it. Okay? So let's talk about this, and we will use the swords for a moment. Byron, I need you. Byron has a baseball bat. Okay? It's not usual for someone to carry a sword around with them. I say that not 2 months ago in the area I live in, someone attacked people with a sword, got up in the rocks, got caught by the LAPD, and fell off 40 feet into the ground. Okay?
That was the end of that.
After a 6-hour standoff, and God knows how many taxpayer hours. Okay, so Byron's in this guard position. Okay? He's dressed up in his baseball uniform. Half of his face is black, half of his face is black.
Careful, you're dating yourself.
Yes, I know. Okay.
And there's loud music playing in the back.
I do not want him to do something that I do not want to see. Because the baseball bat really hurts. I've never been hit by one, I just know. Okay? I do not want this to come down on my head. I do not want this to come down at the edge of this baseball bat, the sweet spot of this baseball bat. Okay? So I'm going to have to bait this, and he wants to do the head shot. I'm going to step into where I'm effectively inside this range. I can effectively go out here, but he's probably going to start chasing me, and then I've lost any edge I have. So I'm going to step in here. Let's see it again. Sorry, I have instincts that I just want to do. Okay, so again, I'm going to bait the overhead hit. You can go for one arm if you want. You can go for both. It doesn't make too much difference. I like going inside, lock it up. He can't use that weapon effectively. He doesn't have time to do it. I take the weapon. I step back and prepare for any further aggression. That's for the tape. Okay? So let's try that. All you're going to be doing is stepping into the hip. One other thing I'm doing too is I'm not hard blocking this. Okay? I am letting him hit, and I'm absorbing it here. That's another cheat that you can use. Okay? I'm not letting him retreat back so he can fire off another shot at me. I'm almost saying, hey Byron, can you hit me while I'm still in control, and then I can set something up? Thanks. Okay. Let's try it. Just one line. Okay. Let me get some more swords so you're ready to go and not.
Get up there.
Got it. Let it collapse into you, Byron, so that you're catching it and drawing it the same way. And you don't want to stop it and then reach for it and go in that way. Let it collapse into you.
I got it too close there.
You're soft absorbing. You're letting it hit your arms. You will stop before your hands hit your head. Even if you don't, it's a lot less impact than you think it is.
Not too far.
Just stand there. And if you can take the weapon, it's always a good idea. That should end the aggression. You gotta stop it before it gets that low.
Yeah.
You gotta come in.
Where's that block though? Like,
One more time. Let me
piece
have
of
Chris
the
do it.
hand.
He steps in.
So you're going just underneath.
Oh.
Reverse Ju-Jitsu.
I don't even know what you want to call it, other than I'm sticking something fun with another weapon. I don't know if you've ever seen
The 1812 musket?
the Jukin.
Kentucky long rifle.
This particular throw is, we're going to do it on the inside and the outside. Let me have Byron for this. How am I going to show this? So it's okay. Okay. The way to handle this weapon, it's a bayoneted rifle. Okay. Hands come down here, hands come up here. They're Is the bayonet, let's say, about that far on it? You don't want to grab up here? Bad idea. The person who's controlling the bayonet is going to be doing this technique. Well, I'm not going to hit him, but it's okay. Essentially ramming through him.
Spear.
Okay. Driving the body weight behind it and into it. You're one unit, you're moving forward. Okay? Look how freaking far I am away from Byron. Just that feeling of, oh man, I am never going to get the whirlpool throw off on Byron. Okay? It's a spear, it's a naginata, it's a jiu-jitsu. Hanbo, let me just slip in your hands. I can get the whirlpool throw off on Byron. Hanbo's a shorter weapon. Okay? Let's have it. Okay, Byron steps in and does his trick. I grab far enough that I'm not grabbing the bayoneted portion of the weapon. Okay? Byron's here. What is he going to do?
Pull back.
Let's do it again. Again, I recommend you bait him so that you know what's coming. I do not want him.
Surprise.
Okay? Sorry. That's why I let go of it. This does not do anything. This hurts no matter what you do. Oops. There is no padding there. It hurts. Again, very slowly. He pulls me into him. He's giving me the impetus to start the throw. I make him look like a dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus Rex, for a second. I take the weapon. If I'm feeling nice, he gets the headbutt. If I'm not, it's over. Okay? He doesn't roll out of the way on this one. There's just no way to do it. Let's try that.
Oh, I see. So we're
Okay, that side, I want to bake to this side. Okay, so it's like same technique. He pulls me in. It doesn't really matter too much. The problem for him is him pulling me back. Okay, so when he does this and I foul the weapon, he wants this. His mind is on this weapon. His mind isn't like, oh, abandon it, go for me, throw me. Okay, even though that's probably what he should be doing at this point. Okay, his mind is, I'm getting that weapon back. Okay. Sorry. It's actually hard for me to stop once I get going on this because he's pulling me and I'm stepping forward. It's like,
and gravity works.
yeah.
Move up a little bit. Let me see it again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me into this. Okay, so instead of going to this side, I go out to that side. I fouled the weapon. He wants it back. He looks in my eyes. The abyss looks back.
So it's just the one hand?
As I catch the weapon, either way, okay? I'm fouling the weapon. He wants that weapon back. I'm not controlling the weapon. I am just locking into my body. Delts. What are these called, Tris?
Lats.
Lats. Oh, lats. I'm using my arm just to hold it here so that when he pulls, I'm coming with it.
Yeah, you just squeeze it in.
There's nothing, I'm not really doing anything with this other than I am doing a little bit with this. So what I'm going to do is just
Steer the bus.
and there's nothing to say that it has to be this throw. I could go for a uchigari. I could go for and take the weapon and then fire it off. There's nothing in particular that says it has to be that throw. But just because I'm talking about one particular throw, that's why I'm using it. Okay, one last thing and then we'll get to some fun stuff. Byron, I need you. Okay, the weapon, the throw is safer. Okay. How do you make the throw into something a little more problematic for the UK?
Two heads are better than one.
You've got your clue. I'm using a head, I'm using a dummy rather than Byron's head.
Which means there's going to be some twisting going on.
Okay? So instead of doing this technique, that technique, there's nothing to say I can't go like this. Okay? And in fact, if you try to do this type of technique with a throw, you're likely to slip anyway. Okay? Perspiration, his movement, your movement, something's going to go wrong. Okay? This throw? Everybody's seen it, everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? I can't do that full force on Byron. Lord knows I've wanted to. Okay?
We're not clear.
He's got to watch his wrist on this, okay? I can practice it on a mannequin pretty easily. Okay? It's hard to do on a pad, a striking pad. You just don't have the
Levers.
Yeah, you just don't have the feel for what the person's doing. Okay? You turn this way. Instead of doing this technique, what if I just, okay? I'm aim this way, so you guys,
Am I supposed to hold on to
Catch.
that?
if you can. I'm just letting you know that this is probably going to go that way. Okay? Back. That's your distraction. Okay? Okay? Nothing to say that this throw can't be adapted for a more serious situation. We're sitting at a bus stop. Sorry. Pervert? he's a pervert. Okay? So when you practice this, I recommend that you try it in different ways. If you always practice like this and do it nice and gentle, in real life you're probably going to do it nice and gentle. Okay? Maybe 5% of the time get something like this out and really get a nice motion out of it. If you've got one of the bob dummies,
Yeah.
okay? That one's got weight underneath it, so it's easier to get the feel for a throw. Let's say I'm doing a sotogari, and it's hard for me to really push into Byron to do a sotogari. I don't want to do this to him. Consideration point. Okay. If I'm here, not so hard to feel bad about doing it. Use different tools occasionally to see what you can do. If you always practice in a nice, gentle manner, you will always give it back. If you take a knife from someone, you always hand it back. Odds are you'll hand it back in real life. Okay. Another adaptation that you can probably do to make this a little more evil, and I like the word evil, is where you don't control the head. Let me have a punch. Okay, again, I baited this punch because I want something to happen here. I am going to hook this down gently to the side. Not enough to where I'm really clearing him out to the side. Just enough to bait him. Okay? He's going to want this hand back. Okay? He pulls it. I put my hand on the shoulder. Step around, put my hand on this shoulder. And I do a reverse pivot. At speed. Ooh, kang. At speed, this has the potential to kill Byron. His head is going to hit that mat, hit that concrete, hit that trash can, whatever it is that's behind him. The power of me moving forward and the power of me pivoting back are enough to take him off his feet really in the, I don't care how good he is at back falls, I really don't. This is the type of fall that's going to make this pop into him. Let's say he survives this fall. I have got several seconds before he even thinks about getting back up.
Make a sandwich.
Okay. I've got time for the Oompa Loompas to come out and sing a little song. Okay. Up over. 1, 2, 3. So that's all I want you to do, not to throw just that, and that'll be the last one we end with. Okay?
Okay.
I'll come up with an Oompa Loompa song while you're doing it. What do you think about it as something to really give some consideration? Not only because as you get older, you don't have the power to do some of these other throws, you're going to have this over the period of your career, so it's probably a thing you really want to think about. Okay?
Where you invest your time.
Put a lot of quarters in that jar.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're going to be putting a lot of quarters in that jar. Okay, now we should have some fun. Everybody signed the waiver, right? That's always the way to start off.
Gee, look at the time.
I didn't bring the one with the skull and crossbones on it, but I was going to.
We're down to only 2 pairs left on the mat.
But I know, this isn't going to be very physically intensive. Let's talk about something that as instructors is important to you. Okay? If you teach right now the same way your instructor taught, value judgment, okay? You're probably not going to be a very good instructor. Here's what I mean by that. Conditions change. Martial arts in the 70s are different than martial arts in the 2000s. Okay. Body types have changed since the 70s. Okay. The threat out there has changed. Safety equipment has changed. I do not want to be the one up on a stand saying, why were you sparring without any type of safety equipment? I did that when I started going up in the 70s. No safety equipment, no mouth guards, no headgear, no pad, nothing. I don't want to be up there. So this has been in effect for 40 years and you're not using it? You're asking to be heard. Everybody has seen and used this knife, right?
Right.
So,
Not this particular knife, but something just like it. This has been around an awfully long time. I'm going to pass all of these around so you know what I'm talking about. Problems with this knife. As instructors, who's used it? Give me a problem with this knife.
They break easily.
They last about 5 minutes. Okay? They really do. They're messy. That silver stuff comes off. It stays on your clothes.
yeah, and they don't have a, I mean,
It's sharp. You can still hurt someone. It's got a pointy tip. It slaps. It hurts. Okay? I just toss it over. Next, everybody's probably used this.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Not that particular one.
but yeah.
Poked holes in people with this.
Okay, let's hear some problems with this knife.
I poked holes in people with this.
It has a point, and I had a brown belt that actually had his palm ripped open trying to block one straight on stupidly.
Wow.
No nerve damage, but it was a really messy cut. So I sand the end down.
Okay, this one you probably have not seen. My guess is none of you have handled this knife. Take a look at it, pass it around, and then I'll ask you to give me an evaluation of that knife real quick.
You know where the blade is?
Yep. There are some benefits. I'm not really looking at the benefits of using this right now.
It'll sting.
He's yours.
It
I mean,
stings.
I'm raising that way.
I got experience. You'll know.
It stings less than the wooden knife when you swing. Okay, and I've had that happen to me.
More times than you can recall.
That one is meant to have more of a push motion. There's some padding at the front, so it is safer, but it still hurts. Okay. This knife. Okay.
Same idea.
Okay. This knife, I'm sorry, let me have that so I can show it for the camera. Okay. Cold steel. Ponton. Okay. These two knives that I'm passing around are essentially the wooden knives.
Is that the size now?
Cold steel.
It's not made out of that, it's like a hardened rubber. You see the lawyers, but it still bends. This is like
Lawyers?
yeah, just well when it comes by, read it.
I can on my glasses.
The soft stick knife.
Still get a good whack out of it.
Okay. Take a look at that.
That's cool.
Each of these as instructors has its place in your course. I believe each of them do. Some of them are essentially the same, so you could just go with price point on them.
Is that the one you dropped?
I got a bunch of different ones.
Like that.
I'm sick.
That's disturbing.
I'm worried about my grades.
He's your son.
It's cool. People keep reminding him of that.
The small plastic knife, and this one has the marking edge on it.
Yeah, this is a little more.
This is more realistic to what you might see in the real world.
Yeah,
You
marked
can
with their
leave-
folders.
You can leave a white streak on it.
You put chalk, you put lipstick, you put a marking agent on it, and you would leave it on your gi so that you could see how many times you've been cut. To be honest, you do that exercise once and you start to realize, yeah, I got cut a lot. I don't think you really need to repeat the exercise too many times.
Okay, just,
Pity
the chalk comes out in the wash, the lipstick.
Yeah,
Don't
no,
use
that's,
lipstick.
It's also part of the use.
Yeah, why are you gonna do it?
okay.
Or what the heck did you do with my lipstick?
Either one.
Another hard knife with the chalking edge on it. Some of them are safety marks, so you can tell that they're obviously practice weapons, some aren't, and that's intentional. I recommend you practice with different size knives too, by the way. Okay. Another marking knife, but this one is soft. It fails in the same way as the rubber knife. It's going to tear under use. Okay. But you can stab with it. Okay. And stabbing is a very important part of the curriculum. If you do not practice stabbing, you've got a problem. There are martial arts where they don't practice the stabbing aspect of it, like kendo or naginata, until you're in your black belt. So, for a very effective tool, they're intentionally pushing it beyond until it's a safer range. You're more committed with it. And my personal favorite, the action flex. I prefer these myself.
Yeah.
You can stab with it. Minor considerations for safety. You got to protect your eyes, and that's just anything you do, you got to protect your eyes. Okie dokie.
Well, you can have any one of these knives, just $19.95. And if you buy today, you get two.
Well,
Just
double
basic
your
and
order.
handle.
The best part, I'm sick. I admit it. I've got a file in my garage of martial arts things that I want. Okay? And as I get a bonus or something like that, and I have some extra spending money, I will spend it to buy. This has been sitting in my want file for several years now. The shock
I'm looking at the.
And it no longer
I don't even want to know.
knife. I keep it locked with a padlock, and there's a reason for it. Okay?
Give it to Jared.
Just checking to see that it doesn't have a battery and that it's not armed. Okay? I'm going to pass it around, but I don't want you to hit anybody with it or hit anything hard with it. This knife costs $500. Got it.
That includes your head, Jared.
Take a look at the styling on it. It looks like it's sharp. It is meant to look like it's sharp.
Let me guess, it delivers a pretty good whoo.
You'll get the chance to tell in just a moment.
It stings, I would imagine.
It feels like you've been cut. But you have no damage, and that's the best part of it. When you practice knife defenses in your dojo, I guarantee that the person who is practicing has no fear of that knife. They are not showing any awareness of that knife. With this knife, you have an awareness of what the knife created.
I would imagine.
Will that reach to a gi?
You know, he's gonna tell you, you're gonna find out.
You're going to find out in just a moment.
First person to mention.
It goes, yes.
Sucker. That was a bait draw.
They use this for police department training mostly. The price point, in my opinion, is too high for most people. That's why it sat in my want file for an awfully long time.
You can get a good taser for $500.
But a taser's not the same for martial arts training. I've seen people use them in knife fighting, dueling. They're too expensive to use that way. All right, let's activate this puppy. Nine-volt battery. Which end's my positive and which end's my negative?
You put it
You get my attention now.
I think you're first up.
Bathroom real bad.
Or you may have to.
Maybe all sphinctered snapshot.
George, you have my camera?
in. Yeah, the camera bag.
It is adjustable. There are 4 ranges on this. The first one being low, the second one being medium, the next one being high, and of course, the last one being extreme.
Let me guess, you're putting it on the extreme.
To your right, right.
I'm going to talk to you about my personal
There you are.
experience with this.
Stun or kill?
And I want
No, to your right.
What you want to be
Next one
touched.
over.
Okay?
No, the one to your left. There you go.
Everybody wants to get out their cameras.
hope there's still juice in that. Here, charger.
When you get this, you have to sign up and say, I will not use this blah, blah, blah before they'll even ship it out to you. You have to take a training course on it and a test. I have to say that training course is the best online training I have taken for martial arts in my life. I've taken 4 or 5 just to see what they're like. The software they used for it was great. I'd recommend it. It was $100. Even if you don't use it for the shock knife, for $100 it's a good continuing education experience. You know, you've got this standard do not torture your uke with the knife type of stuff.
Oh, man.
But they talk a lot about, I'm just going to pass out one page that you can see some of the training that I'm talking about here. I want to look at it afterwards because it's more fun to play with the knife than it is to read the instructions.
Why would you read instructions?
Yeah, they are not fooling around with this. When they start using words like electrical brachial stun or electrical testicular torsion, you start to pay attention right away.
Anything with electricity and testicles in the same sentence, I'm paying attention.
So what's off limits for this whenever you use it? Face, neck, groin. Entirely off limits. No matter what you're practicing, entirely off limits. So I ordered this thing and I need someone to test it out on me because as an instructor, I believe it is my responsibility to try it out on myself first so I know what it can do and what it can't. I would not test this out on a student. Take a picture.
Sure.
Yes, it's volunteer.
Oh, you're, I'm here, you're.
No, I'm not doing anything yet.
Press the button. Thank you.
That's the low setting, by the way. I mean, you can barely see the spark plowing off of that. It's a very short click, 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 click.
What's the voltage on it, do you know?
That's one of the questions they make you take on the test. I don't remember. It's very low. That's one of the reasons they take. There's an electrical chapter that they discuss electrical concepts, and they tell you why the shock knife is not the same as the taser. Why it's not disabling and safety features they built into the knife.
The ohm setting is lower than, right?
So even at the high setting, it just, what kind of disabling effect?
There's no disabling effect.
It just hurts like.
Okay. So here I am, I've got this knife, I really, really want to try it out on myself. And just because it's safer to have someone there with you, I can't try it out on myself. I need someone to do it with me. My wife declined. I'm not letting my 6-year-old daughter use it on me. I needed someone I could trust. So I asked Byron if he would cut me with the knife.
Hell yes,
Okay.
that's it.
And I didn't even have the sentence out. Byron, will you cut me with the... Oh, hell yeah! No, he was actually very good about it, but I trusted Byron and I needed Byron to do it. Okay, so in case something happened to me, he was there. As an instructor, I recommend if you try something new, to have some kind of safety backup.
Question, any issues with people with pacemakers or close to the chest causing a fibrillation?
You don't want to use it with someone who's got those kind of problems.
But what about holding it close to the chest triggering fibrillation?
You do not torture your uke with the knife. They're very clear about that, and the contact you make should be about half a second. So you are not going to push this up against somebody's chest and it's going to be a cut.
Okay.
Okay? Or if you're going to threaten with it, you're going to stand back here, put the fear of God into them, and then come down. Okay? On its lowest setting, some of the safety features you have here is that it maintains a residual charge in the blade. Teaches you not to pick up a knife by the blade.
Interesting. So it gives you a little,
If you carried that on the street instead of a real knife, and you pull that thing out,
and go.
nobody's gonna attack you with
Key on
holding
the thing. Yeah.
And then you go,
That's better than a real knife.
you go, I'm from the
So
future.
let's say you attach attachment to your belt. You whip it out. Not that I have the attachment for any reason whatsoever.
You just hold that thing out and they see those sparks.
This is enough probably to make the person think to themselves, what the hell is that? I don't want to be here. Okay? None of you have felt this before, right? I'm talking to everybody's new
I've never
enemies.
seen it.
I've never seen it.
At $500, you don't doubt it. Okay? So my question is I'm anticipating Byron cutting me as a martial artist and as a man. Do I have him tested on the low setting or the extreme?
Extreme.
You guys didn't agonize over it like I did.
Yeah, but we're talking about you testing.
Hell, you extreme.
Oh, me, love you.
Me,
can test off, but
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do just to give everybody a feel for it. I'm going to put it on low. Okay, it's on low. I haven't turned it up any higher. I need a tool to do that. I'd just like you to grab a blade. You'll get a small shot, but it's nothing. Don't hold on to your camera while you're holding something electrical.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's live. Touch the blade.
Yeah.
You just get a little. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not.
not huge, but it definitely lets you know.
it's pitching and going out is.
There's something. There's a little bite to it. Do you want to do it? Sure.
It's like walking around the carpet and touching the cat.
Right. The cat's worse, I mean.
Okay. So if you drop that knife on the ground,
Feels like you got
it's enough where you go. I felt.
Touching a doorknob.
Okay. If you're adrenalized, you might not even feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
That explains
But
it.
you know what,
Or if you're used to electroshock therapy.
but you know what it felt like? It felt like a really razor sharp knife that you got cut. Because there's just a little bite and then you don't feel the pain anymore.
Usually you don't
It's
feel
over there,
that
so you're-
cut
yeah.
afterwards.
Just enough to go.
Okay. Again, because you need a tool to dial this up, it's less likely that your students are going to start playing around with it extreme before they're ready for it. Okay? Okay, so that's the low setting. It's all the way to low. Medium, you start seeing the spark dance a little bit more. You're getting more of an auditory involvement in the knife. You're starting to fear a little more what's going on. If you're close enough to it, you can start to smell the plasma burn the ozone over the air. Okay? All right, who wants to be cut with it?
Can I do extreme?
We can, I'd like to build up to it. Just-
I would imagine it's probably interesting.
Are you coming around again? Or?
I'll come around. Or if you want to stand up, that'd be easier for me. And I'm about easier for me.
Yeah.
It's recording.
Ready for a minute.
What I'm going to have you do is I'll have you roll up your sleeve, and I'm just going to take, and I'm going to cut across like this. No more than half a second's contact on you. That's not even half a second, all right?
I felt it.
Okay? Thank you. Steve, that's right.
Yeah, that stings.
I wouldn't know. Yeah, I got the idea.
Getting business. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It is, exactly.
Sharp.
All the taekwondo in the world won't help you now.
Notice the effect you have on people looking at all of a sudden when I do this. Okay?
Staring at the knife.
Yeah, right.
All your attention focused.
That is actually what you should be doing in real life against the knife.
Backing the hell up.
Now, is that on the extreme side?
You know, it's funny because you think to yourself, oh no, yeah, no big deal. Then it goes, you're like, aye, gotta go.
Okay. I'll offer you the opportunity, and I'm not doing this because I'm the safest streamer, but to test the field with it loose. Anybody want to try? I will do the exact same thing. It'll be a sharp cut. Okay?
On extreme?
Oh, yeah.
Jared, wait. Oh,
Get
If you want
behind
to take
me.
pictures, let me know. This
Wait, wait.
is $5 each. I need to pay for this knife somehow.
It's like the Easter Bunny at the mall.
Wait,
Exactly.
get behind me and catch him.
Yeah, just in case.
Get behind me and catch him.
It's not that type of shot.
So,
I'm just teasing.
just for the Vancouver Institute of Self-Defense website, this is the shock knife. This is a $500 knife. It's basically, it looks like a knife, but it's like a stun gun. This is at the extreme setting. Thank you. Can I get one more? Can you hold it? I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. It feels like it's cutting. It's just.
No, I hit the guard. That's what it is. The guard's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Everybody survived so far. So.
You gotta get through your, you asked.
Does that feel like a gun?
For whatever reason, you're dead. In a knife in particular, it's a very quick situation. My choice was to take the knife and see what it was. So Byron cut me several times just to see what it was like. Okay? The training with this is typically statue training at first, where Byron throws a punch and he just stands there with the knife. I'm sorry, throws a knife thrust. Okay? He stands there firing this off, and I execute my technique, but he doesn't do anything like it. Then you start adding a little bit more to it, a little bit more to it, a little bit more to it, until you're finally at the end, you're all padded up so you aren't getting accidentally brachial stunned or torsion. Okay? But I recommend that you, when you train, you start thinking about these kind of things. This is not something that was available to Kirby Sensei in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. Okay? And it's out of Canada, by the way.
Go figure,
They shipped it over the border to me, I don't know. Okay, so think about it. It's something that you want to think about, and it teaches you a lot about yourself and as your partners.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.